Well, here we are, back in David's domain, Mr. D.
Back here, but not in the cold cinema room.
No.
Because it's -2 or something.
Yeah, that was a little bit too cold. I'm feeling nice and Christmassy. I think you've made a nice effort.
Yeah, got a little Christmas tree up.
I like it.
I tried to put these up, but you've sat on them.
Yeah, I've ruined that.
Yeah, you've destroyed all my hard work.
They're very Christmassy, Dwyz. They're skulls.
Well, they're Claire's, aren't they?
Yeah, of course they're skulls.
Right, let's not beat about the bush. So it's
Straight in there, no messing.
Christmas film that I've chosen, but I've chosen 2 and I want you to choose.
Oh, okay.
So I do have my favourite, but someone pointed out that it's not actually a Christmas film.
Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
How did you know?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it is. It's Thanksgiving, which to me is just, what is it, like mini Christmas? We don't.
Yeah, no, it's only a few weeks before Crimbo, isn't it?
Yeah,
I always think of it as Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful film about family and stuff, and it's snowing, and so.
Yeah, that's a good choice. I like that.
But
and I've not seen that for a long time.
No, I haven't. And it is actually my favourite ever.
The legend John Candy. John Candy, Steve Martin. What a team up. The second film's going to have to be really good for me not to choose.
They're doing a second film?
No, the second film that you choose.
Oh, yeah. Well, the other one I found on Netflix, and it's called... I haven't seen it, but I just thought I'd have a choice in case you didn't want to watch Planes, Trains and Automobiles. It's called Christmas Chronicles with Kurt Russell.
Seen that.
You've seen it?
Yeah. It's very good. It's Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
He's one of the best Father Christmases, actually.
Is he?
Yeah, he's awesome in it. His whole outfit is... He's got to be one of the best father. He's so cool, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's so cool.
Love him.
Only on the basis that I've seen that a lot more recent than I've seen Planes, Trains. I haven't seen that for a while now.
Yeah, I want Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Planes, Trains and Automobiles.
Even though it's not strictly a Christmas
Hey,
film.
Dwyz.
What?
Those aren't pillows.
Yeah, what? Oh, yeah, those aren't pillows. Ah! Right, okay. Well, first, we're recording in the middle of the day, so it's cup of tea and not margaritas.
Because I have to drive.
And I've got a present for you.
Oh.
That I need you to open up on camera.
Oh, well, that's nice of you,
It's
mate.
here. The box is too big for me to wrap. I couldn't be bothered.
What? Look at the size of that.
Yeah. It's not wines. This is Claire's wine box. But I just had to have something to put it in.
Well, thank you very much. I wasn't expecting a present. I'm delighted to have a present.
Well, it's all about friends and family, that type of year, isn't it?
What, you've got your family in? You've got your mums in here?
Yeah, I've got my sisters in there as well.
Hey, ooh.
Ooh. Have you any idea what it is?
No, I can just see a towel at the moment.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Happy Christmas.
Oh, mate, honestly.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, for my gaming bar. That's so cool. Oh, mate, are you seriously?
That is yours.
What?
So, yeah, if you don't know what that is, Gavin's got a bar at home and he's set up a racing rig with his PlayStation. He's got a wheel, and that is stick, as the Americans say.
Yeah, that's so cool. Logitech, and it goes with a wheel, and... Yeah. Oh, mate, that's amazing. Oh, I love that, because I play a lot of rally as well. So rather than using the...
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
My pleasure. Just to show you that, so it goes around that way on your left, and that attaches to your rig somehow. I've kept the screws up there for you.
Oh, brilliant. Mate, that's so cool. I love it. It's got,
if you need to spin it round, you can take that off and well, whatever, yeah.
That's awesome. I'm very, very chuffed with that, mate.
Hey!
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Right,
Merry Christmas.
Let's crack on with the film.
Merry Thanksgiving, Planes, Trains and Automobiles. Although we're going to say Christmas. I have to say, this year, there's not been a film that we've watched this year that I haven't enjoyed in some form or another.
I know, yeah.
I mean, I know we've been lucky there, really, because you don't know what, I don't know what you choose and you don't know what I choose. But that was, I can't believe I've not watched that for about 10 years plus. It's so good. It's so funny. It's just, it's everything. It's comedy gold, for starters. It's poignant in places. It's a lovely little message in there as well. And it's just brilliant. I mean, it's Steve Martin and John Candy, two comedians who at the time were at at the height of their success, written into not even a buddy movie, because they're not buddies in it, are they? During it's like a romantic comedy, except with two blokes. And it's just so funny. Please, if you've never seen Planes, Trains and Automobiles, watch it now.
It's quite unique, actually. Now you mention it like that, because it's not like a good cop, bad cop. It's not like a buddy movie. It's not like a romance. That, you know, it's these two guys who are on the screen for 99% of the whole movie. And they don't even really like each other. They're just thrown together due to circumstances. And it's about what happens to them. It's brilliant. It's when I thought about it, choosing this film in my head, I did have a few inclinations. It's like, oh, what if it's not as good as I remember? Do you know what I mean?
Really?
But it's an absolute classic. That's going to have to go in my top list of my favourite movies of all time.
88, so that's again
25 years ago.
25.
No, it's more than
that.
that.
It's longer. 98.
35.
2008. Yeah. I was 18 years old when that came out. And I love watching that just as much now as I did when I first saw it.
Yeah, same.
There were bits in that I remember, obviously, and there were still bits in that I'd forgotten that made me really howl. But I'll talk about some of the certain bits in a bit. But what a simple premise, but strung out and interwoven with other threads. That whole premise, it's like a nightmare, isn't it? Where you're trying to get somewhere, but you can't.
Yeah.
That simple premise.
It's almost like, have you ever had those nightmares where you're trying to get somewhere and whatever happens, you can't get to where you're supposed to go?
It's exactly that, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to be somewhere for a certain time or whatever. No matter how hard you try, you can't get there. You can't
find your car keys, you can't find the right street to go down. You know, like, when I was watching it, I thought, part of the reason it works is because it's not over the top in what happens to them.
No.
It's like parts of that journey, it's probably happened to everyone.
Yeah.
But like, it happens to them about 8 times in a row with different things going wrong. But I could well imagine if me and you, right, we were like, I know, let's go to Southampton for the weekend, right? And we set off like in this kind of weather that we've got actually in the UK right now. I can imagine all that happening to us.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it only takes a few things to conspire against you, and then to have them run consecutively before you get to a point where you probably want to pull your hair out. And although that kind of goes to the massive extremes later in the film, it's just so brilliant the way it's done. I mean, when you first meet Del, John Candy's character. I mean, yeah, if you really did meet someone like that at the start of that sort of journey.
You do meet people. It's not even over the top, because you do meet people like that in real life that just cannot stop talking. You know?
I'm a bit like that sometimes, so I must be a bit like John Candy, but I don't do that before going to sleep. And I don't leave my socks in the wash hand basin.
Oh, that was
or
gross.
my pants, so you can clean your face with them as well.
Oh my god.
Do you know what as well? Oh, man, again, probably because that's the first time I've watched that on a big screen.
Right.
Because I never got to see that at the cinema when it first came out, and I know I said to you, didn't I? Did you notice it right at the start? Before you even meet Del, you're kind of meeting him, because he first trips over Del's trunk, which makes him miss his cab with, oh my God, Kevin Bacon. He has the little mini race with Kevin Bacon.
That was quite bizarre. A very young looking Kevin Bacon.
It trips over Del's case. We haven't even met Del at that point, but it says Del on the trunk. And that's like, if you're seeing the film for the first time, it's like, well, okay. And then when Del takes his cab while he's paying the other guy to have the cab, and Del takes it away from him, you still haven't met Del, but you see Del's trunk in the boot of the taxi. And as it drives away, there's a puddle on the road, and in the puddle, there's an actual shower ring, which is what he sells. And it's like, this is so good. This is so good. Yeah. So already we kind of have met the character.
But yeah, well picked up on that. Yeah.
What a film. I mean, let's talk a little bit about John Candy, because I'm interested to know, having been a massive fan of that, are you a fan of his other work that he did?
Yeah, I was a late entry point into John Candy, but I love him now. I don't know what to say about that. He's just a legend, isn't he? And that sorely missed legend.
Yeah, definitely sorely missed. It would have been fantastic to see what sort of longevity he had. I can't watch Wagons East, the film that he died whilst making. I can't watch that because it's just too sad to know that he died while, I think he fell off a horse or something, didn't he? I think, or something like that happened. I'm sure he fell off a horse.
Oh, I don't know.
Whilst making that film, yeah. And but yeah, I mean, I'm brought up. John Hughs.
Yeah. So he did Breakfast Club, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I you forget, Uncle Buck. So I think Uncle Buck is a John Hughes film as well.
Right.
So he's worked with Candy before.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in the day. He was just he was a legend.
Yeah, he is a legend, and he's very subtle. He's a very subtle actor, actually. So one thing I love about the film is you got John Candy and you got Steve Martin, who both at the time were like at the peak of comedy.
God, yeah.
But in a way, they play it very straight. They're not playing it as comedians. They're playing it as actors, and the comedy just comes from the situations that they end up in and how they react to each other, which is all in the writing. And it's absolutely fantastic to see him acting straight. When have you ever seen Steve Martin play such a serious role? Because he's this guy that works in the city who's like works in marketing, is stressed out in the suit and stuff. Whereas usually he's in really absurd comedies, isn't he? Really over the top comedies.
Yeah, Man with Two Brains, etc.
Yeah, and he can act. He's got acting chops there.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah, I like the fact that as the film goes on, at first you feel sorry for Steve Martin's character, but because John Candy's just, no matter what he does, he's like a giant bear, isn't he?
Yeah.
He just and because of the nature of who he is, it's not that long into the film where you actually just think Steve Martin's just being a bit of a knob, and he should really just take a chill pill, no matter how annoying.
Because he's like highly strung New Yorker, isn't he? It takes a while for him to learn. Like at the end of the film, he was like, I've definitely learned and become a new person due to this journey, and you see that.
Yeah.
Just gets a level of understanding. And John Candy's brilliant as well in that when they're in the car, he's saying like, you need to learn to go with the flow. And that's important to know in life, You can get mixed up with work and think it's all important and rush around, But sometimes when you're rushing through stuff, you make mistakes and stop enjoying things. Whereas if you learn to go with the flow a bit more and let stuff happen as it should,
I mean, without getting too deep about the comment he made, right at the start in the airport when he's talking to Steve Martin, he's literally talking about his work and life balance. And now we don't know if you're watching that film for the first time, but the reason he's talking about that work and life balance is, of course, because we don't know at the time, but his wife has died. Yeah. And it becomes a lot more poignant, doesn't it? The stuff that he says and what was happening.
Can you remember the first time you watched it? Did you work out that he was alone? Or?
No, the first time I watched it, I'll be honest, I didn't. And the biggest clue there is when he says in the cafe when they're eating that, no, I haven't been home for years.
Yeah.
And really, you should if you're really paying attention, you pick up on that. But there's quite a lot in that I'm laughing so much at some of the situations that some of the serious stuff kind of goes under the net a little bit, or made me forget. I mean, it's a testament to the two actors in that they can do all the funny stuff without it being too. I mean, there is definitely some slapstick in there. That's fair enough, but the slapstick's done so well. It's not cheesy. Slapstick, like when he's getting his. That's probably the funniest section for me, actually, is when he gets his coat arms caught on the chair.
But again, that can happen in real life. I know you obviously you probably haven't done this, but I have been in the car. Think I've got to take my coat off, and halfway through I've thought, no, this is really dodgy. I really should not be doing this.
I've seen people taking jumpers off. Well, yeah. Oh, I'll just get the sleep out. I'll just get that one. Now, if I'm quick, I can just get it.
Pull it over your arm.
So there's the small bits of slapstick in there that are done brilliantly.
Yeah.
So there's not to be cheesy, and it's genuinely really funny.
Yeah.
And this was the point I was going to make, actually, is how good you have to be as an actor to be able to pull off a slapstick moment like that. And then, in another moment in the film, you're at a point where you're making somebody feel like they want to cry.
Yeah.
That whole stuff at the when he goes to see him at the end in the railway station, and he says to him, "No, I've got nowhere to go," and it just for a moment it becomes very poignant, and everything you realise, don't you? In fact, you probably realise as Steve Martin is realising on the train. He's working it all out, isn't he? And he's listening to the comments that he's made, and he's going, yeah, But it takes acting chops, I think, to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's quite even though some over the top stuff happens to him. They do act it quite subtly. I did feel myself, my teardrop's welling up a little bit at the end there.
Oh, it's such a sweet ending.
Because he's so lovable, and like when you realise, it's quite sad actually.
Yeah, it's a very sweet ending.
It's a very, very well made film.
It's genius.
So quite often when I'm watching films, I'm like, I can see the writing, I can see the editing, I can see, the cinematography or whatever. You can't see any of it in that because it's just like it's just based on these two people and they're not electricity. They're what is it? Not charisma. They're
how compatible they are on screen together.
Yeah.
The chemistry they have.
The chemistry they have with each other is absolutely amazing.
Can you imagine if they'd not got the right actors for that? To say, like you said, 99% of the time you were either looking at both of them together or one of them or the other for the entire film. Can you imagine what that would have been like if they'd miscast that film?
It's gold, isn't it? And that's why, like, a lot of movies you watch, you're like, they haven't done this very well. But it's not really their fault. You cast people thinking it's going to work and the chemistry ain't right. There's so many things that can go wrong. So when you get a film like that, that's why it's held in such high regard. Cause
everything's being hit.
Yeah.
You've got brilliant writing. You've got editing. Brilliant editing.
Yeah.
Just
flawless.
Yeah. And the chemistry and even
the soundtrack. I think the soundtrack's a bit whack, but it kind of works just for that. I mean, it's not
very 80s, isn't it?
1988. So let's get the Casio keyboard out and do some pretend scratching and beats and stuff to like be wacky, But like, obviously, you have to take everything in context, don't you?
It still works though, doesn't
it?
When they open the door to the hotel room and they both realise it's just one double bed, and the music kicks in and it's all a bit awkward, isn't it? It's like John Candy says to him,
"So
take a shower."
They show, not tell, don't they? Yeah. So like you're watching, you're thinking the same thing, but they haven't said anything to each other yet, and you know what they're thinking. It's just expressions and stuff. But people say like they don't make films like they used to. That is the perfect example because I cannot imagine a film coming out now that would give so much space to the characters just to kind of interact and be with each other silences, awkward silences and stuff. Whereas now it's all like joke, bang, 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 cut, and it's everyone's trying to outcompete each other as well.
It's like, I mean, you'll appreciate this more than me, I suppose. Again, I've said this before. You get me looking at cinematography a little bit more now,
which
means I'm looking at more detail in some of the stuff too.
Good.
So, like a particular shot that I laughed at it, and I wouldn't have laughed at it before because I wouldn't have picked up on it. But and I said to you during the film, I was like, oh, they've even gone to the detail of doing this. And it was back in the hotel room in the morning where obviously like on Dell's side, where he's just got his like can of beer with this cigarette ash in it, and it's an absolute mess, his side table, and there's like crackers and popcorn and crap all over. And then the camera pans slowly onto Dell's body, onto his elbow, and then stuck to his pyjama corners. There's that bits of popcorn stuck, and I went, oh my God, they've even got some just subtly stuck to his elbow. And I started laughing just at that little detail before it then pans down to his face cuddling Steve Martin, and he's like about to kiss him on the ear and stuff. And so I can really appreciate somebody saying, right, how are we going to start this next scene? How are we going to start this next? What are we going to do? Where should we start? Well, let's start with a pan. Oh, that'd be really good. It's if we could just put a little bit of crap on his pajamas, whatever. Just little details.
Yeah, it is little details. Like when they're in the, I can't remember where they're waiting, but they're sat next to that bloke who's got two little mice on his knee. He's got the box on his lap, and there's a little hole where
there's a hole in the bottom of the box.
They live in the box and come out. It's like he's only on screen for like 3 seconds, but it's the attention to detail, isn't it? There's nothing weirder than folk, and when you go out into the public, you never know what's going to happen and the kind of odd people you meet. My friend came to visit a couple of weeks, or Claire's friend.
You haven't got any friends.
Because I ain't got any friends. And he'd been in York, right? And I can't remember if he went for breakfast or whatever, and the guy that served him came up and had a parrot on his shoulder.
You're joking? Random?
Yeah, a real live parrot on his shoulder. And it's like, you can't make it up, do you know what I mean?
No, you can't make it up. You definitely can't. So we have a guy where I live, we have a guy that sometimes has a fox on a lead, walks a fox, a tame fox.
Oh,
yeah, I know. But seeing that was like, you would be like, what?
That's mad.
Double take.
And with planes, trains and automobiles, everything that happens in the movie is something that can happen, could actually happen to you.
Yeah.
You're not there thinking, as if that's, that could only happen in a movie. It's like literally every single thing, apart from maybe the car catching on fire.
Oh my God.
He's driving it off.
You see, that again, sidetracking slightly, but that again is another moment where the comedy has been written that well, it's made me forget about something, which then leads to something bigger. So that car scene, I mean, I love it, as you can already tell. It's that brilliant film. My favourite complete scene, like sequence, let's say, is the whole sequence of them sharing the car.
Yeah.
Right. Starting with Dell messing about with the car seat, trying to get comfy, and just messing that up. And then when they swap seats, Steve Martin's in it, and he's broken the chair, so he's already out. And then it starts, really proper starts, doesn't it, when Dell's driving with the cigarette. So he's listening to that mess around, isn't he?
Oh yeah, that's
do that mess around. Yeah. And then he gets the cigarette and he flicks it, bounces off the window, and he doesn't realise, and lands on the back seat. That's it. Apart from him saying, I'm getting a bit hot now, they don't then mention or go back to that for a long, long time. There's a really long sequence with the trucks, with the thing, and
that's why he's
taking the road. There's the coat and that,
yeah.
and it's so well done comedy wise that by the time they've got the car parked up on the side and they're pulling Dell's trunk and they both sit down with their back to the car, and then you hear the car go, and then your brain goes, oh shit, the cigarette.
Yeah. Because you don't watch anything, what about a cigarette, when you're going to get to the cigarette? I mean, they wait so long that you forget. You end up stop asking that question.
Can't possibly get any worse. And then in the background.
It can't possibly get any worse. And when it does, they both break out in hysterics. Because that is so realistic. Because when, it's when stuff happens that's so bizarre and crazy in your life, you just end up absolutely laughing your socks off because it's just so outrageously abnormal what's happening to you in your life.
It's that expression, isn't it? You know what? I've got to laugh because if I don't laugh, I'd cry.
Yeah.
Although one of the reasons Martin's laughing in that one, Steve Martin, is because he thinks the car's burst into flames and he finally thinks that something's gone against Dell and not him, because he thinks Dell's
finds out.
He finds out he's used his card, which he put back in his wallet, which is now in the car. That's like brilliant. Every single thing about that film is written just
the writing
spot on.
Is amazing. Who was it? I think it was Stanley Kubrick who said that you only need 3 things to make a good film: writing, and writing.
Oh, there you go.
And that is that film.
It's a great example.
Apart from casting. And,
it's a great example of how strong the writing needs to be. Definitely.
Yeah, it is. There was a few shots in there that I thought were like, wow. How did they get away with that, like health and safety wise? So you know the bit where Steve Martin gets punched and he falls on the floor, and then John Candy pulls up in the car.
Oh my god!
Literally, it's like 2 foot away from his head.
The car literally goes doing like that. So you know it was like being braked.
It was real.
The only other way that you could do it is if you had someone at the back, the car goes slower than you think, and they speed the film up, and someone rocks it. But
it didn't look like
that way, did it?
No. And the bit where he was taking off his coat, obviously that was all fake. But then the way the car was skidding on the ice and stuff, it's that is so dangerous. Like,
good stunt.
But I also thought that film could have been a nightmare for the crew to film, because it wasn't fake snow or anything. That
was real.
That was real, and it must have been bloody freezing. Yeah. Imagine taking all your cameras out and lights and stuff where it's ice on it. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, and I tell you what, in the 80s there would have been a lot of kit.
A
lot of kit, wouldn't there?
Yeah, big time.
I definitely agree. It would not have been an easy film. It might have been fun to have been an actor filming in it, but it wouldn't have been a fun film as crew, I'm sure.
No, you would have been bloody freezing and knackered.
And a lot of night shoots as well.
There was actually, wasn't there?
A lot of night shoots, really mixed. So when did you first see Planes, Trains then?
I can't really remember, to be honest. It would have been back in the day.
Did you see it when it first come out?
Yeah, I reckon so, because I was a big fan of Steve Martin back in the day. Which reminds me, before I forget, I was going to say, have you ever seen, I think it's on Disney here, there's a...
Murders in the Building?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I've seen the whole of the first season.
Right.
And I'm busy starting to work my way through season 2.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
Well, Steve Martin has still got his comedic timing.
Yeah, he's in his 80s.
He must be in his 83 or something like that.
But it's the same with Martin Short as well.
Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, same. Do you know what? Talking of Steve Martin and Martin Short, you know what? Eventually, one of the films we're going to have to choose then. 3 Amigos.
Oh, yeah, classic film.
Yeah, the 3 Amigos.
A bit more slapstick. I don't know if that would hold up. It'd be interesting to see.
It would be interesting. Chevy Chase as well.
Yeah, Chevy Chase.
All at their height. Martin Short, Chevy Chase, Steve Martin. Oh man, do you know? Right, I reckon writing a good comedy is probably harder than trying to write something like a thriller or I don't know, or maybe a horror. Because like a comedy that appeals to most people. You know what I mean? Because you're right. You've got timing. Yeah. You've got
you've got to hit it on the head, haven't you?
I watched a film a few years ago, which was it wasn't a remake of that. You can't remake that. Period. Right. But there's a film that's got Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. in, called Due Date.
Due Date.
Due Date. Like when's your baby due?
Due date, yeah.
And of a similar premise as far as Downey Jr. is trying to get somewhere and he can't, and his nemesis in that is the guy from The Hangover, the guy with the tash.
Right.
And I thought, what they're trying to do is something like what we've just watched. I didn't like it.
No?
I didn't like it because it just wasn't.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of films made, and there's only a very select few that are classics, and the reason is because it's incredibly difficult to make a film full stop. No wonder have it comedy and be funny and also still relevant. You know, you can make comedies that are funny at the time, but now you watch them now and they're not really that funny. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking of something like Beverly Hills Cops, which I've not seen recently, but I can't imagine that type of comedy it's still as surprising as clever as it was. But with planes, trains, and automobiles, it's hard to actually. It's not straight up comedy, is it?
No, there's a whole mixture of comedic things in there. So they use lots of different methods, but the biggest method they get out for the comedy is the situation, like you said. Yeah. It's the whole situation that makes that the funniest. And another thing I really like about that film too is, apart from that one scene where Steve Martin's going to get the hire car and goes back and he's dropping the F-bombs, just dropping loads and loads of F-bombs.
Wow, I remember that when it first came out. That was shocking because you didn't really get stuff like that in those days.
I never saw that at the cinema, right? So the first time I saw that was on terrestrial TV. So for quite a number of years, I used to think he was saying, I want to get me a fudging car, and I want a fudging Datsun or fudging Honda, and then she's like, "You're fudged," and I used to think that's what they were saying because they used to, because they they love it. They wouldn't have the F-bomb being dropped on terrestrial TV, right? Because they'd show that film at sort of 7, 8 o'clock. But the interesting thing about it was the comedy in it. It's not crass. It's not cheap. There's no crass or cheap something in there that's thrown in that's just really cheap or gross to make you laugh.
No,
right? And that's good writing.
Yeah, and they're not making caricatures of people or races or backgrounds or anything like that to raise laughs. It's brilliant. But one of the interesting things about the film is it's still, if you stripped all the comedic elements out of it, it'd still be a fantastic story.
Oh, the story's great, isn't it? Yeah.
So the comic, it'd be interesting. Like John Hughes wrote it. Did he write it as being a comedy, or did he? Was it him that made sure he stayed away from slapstick kind of puns and things?
Yeah.
Or it'd be interesting to see how it ended up as it is.
Yeah.
Or did they even? You could even imagine that Steve Martin and John Candy got together and just freestyled a lot of it.
Oh, could you imagine that?
Wow.
If now that I've seen that and it's reminded me, if I could meet one person just to shake their hand and say, "You were part of my childhood," I wish I could meet John Candy.
Wow.
Yeah. I wonder what he was like. I think he was quite private, because you never really know much about him privately apart from what he did in his films.
No.
There's an interesting thing I heard about him. People probably know this. You might even know this probably, but I only found this out. I don't know, a couple of years ago, and it was when I was watching a documentary about Home Alone, and he cameos in Home Alone.
No.
Not for it's only a short cameo, but he did it for something like $20. And he did it as a favour, because I think didn't John Hughes do Home Alone?
Oh, I think he did, yeah.
So he cameos in Home Alone and he does it for $20, and there was a reason for it. I can't remember what the reason was, but it's a nice reason, and it just made me think, he really sounds like he's just a really all-round lovely guy.
He's probably a good dude.
Oh.
Well, let's not get too depressed on...
No, well look, let me just say that was a brilliant choice.
Absolutely loved that.
It's made me think I've got to up my game. I won't be choosing a comedy for the next one, seeing as that was comedy. But I think eventually when I choose my first comedy for us to watch...
It's going to have to be a good one.
It's going to have to be a good one.
Is that the first comedy we've watched?
Yeah.
I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah. We've done sci-fi, thriller, comedy, horror, Christmas... Tarantino, that's a separate genre.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to write down the genres we've done actually.
Well, listen, mate, this year's been a good year, thank you. Next time we're sitting in our man caves will be 2023.
Yeah.
So let's hope 2023 is a good year for everybody. And let's hope 2023 brings us some interesting films for you and I to watch.
I hope so, my friend.
Merry Christmas.
Enjoying man caves and margaritas. Hope you guys are. And we'll see you next year.
Oh, and we should say, so we've never really sort of banged on about this. If you do like the content, give us a little subscribe, because that would mean a lot to us, wouldn't it?
Yeah, get on it. Subscribe. We've only got 40 subscribers.
I know, we could do a few more. It would be
They're
nice.
probably just our mates.
Yeah. But if you have subscribed and you're looking and you're watching and you want to put a comment, put comments down. Let us know what you think. It'd be interesting to hear feedback, wouldn't it? What do you think of the film? What do you think of what we thought of the film even? Let us know.
Yeah.
So, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. See you in 2023. Those aren't pillows.